We'll be watching now is a video of Matt Helander's first year from August 17th, 1973 through his first birthday party. These are the first videos of him in the crib. He's probably about a week old at this point. We were living at 239 West Sheridan Place, a house which had 2 bedrooms, and the second bedroom, of course, became Matt's nursery. This video was put together from a bunch of old 8mm home movies that are silent, so there's no sound to it other than what I'm adding right now. Matt was born at 11:54 a.m. August the 17th, 1973. He weighed in at 7 pounds 6 ounces. I remember we got to the hospital probably about midnight, and it was a long wait until Mary Lee went through labor. We played Yahtzee in her room until she just couldn't concentrate anymore. We were also doing the Lamaze method of controlled breathing, and that worked up to a point, but after a while it didn't work anymore. And I remember driving home, leaving her, she and Matt at the hospital after he was born, driving home and thinking, my goodness, my life has really changed, and all for the better. We're a family now. Matt was a good baby. He did have some problems with colic, though, where he would just get, I believe, stomach pains. Who knows what it was. He eventually outgrew them, but there were times where he would just cry and cry for, a long, long time, till he finally cried himself to sleep. It was not fun, but we never figure out how to take care of it. Like I say, he eventually outgrew it. Here's some shots of our house at 239 West Sheridan Place. Mary Lee and I had bought it in 1972, so we'd had it about a year when Matt arrived. That's our old Pinto station wagon, and my folks' Buick. They would spend half the year in Lake Forest and go back down to Florida for the wintertime. They were great grandparents. It's the backside of the house, the backyard. Nice flowing kind of slope in the back there. Also pictures of the screened-in porch I built off of the back of the garage, and the macrame that Mary Lee had made, looking out the front window of the house. Matt's getting another bath here. A month or two later, and he isn't quite the infant anymore. He's growing up to be a good boy, big boy. Still pretty well confined to his crib, though. The house when we bought it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-level home, and we would soon add on a second floor. Well, we soon, but we would eventually add on a second floor to make room for Casey when he was arriving in 1978. But that was 3 years in the future, so 5 years in the future. So this is the house as it was originally. And a proud daddy lifting up his new son very carefully. We're just starting to get some facial expressions at this point. There's almost a smile here coming up, but that would develop very quickly. Of course, Mommy knows how to pick up the child much better than Dad did. Another bath scene, but you notice the facial expressions. Matt is much more expressive than he was a couple months earlier. This is either December of '73 or January of '74. Don't have the exact date, but you'll see in a moment the view out the window of Matt's bedroom. Snow on the ground. We were going to drive down to Florida that year, so we got in our brand new Pinto station wagon, which is also an addition when Matt was on his way. And here we are in Lake Worth, Florida, where my folks had the house that was actually built by my grandfather Axel when they settled there in the early 50s. Part of that had a wonderful backyard, and part of it was this swing that Axel had built also. He was quite a handyman. But it was a wonderful place to visit. There was the main house, and then there was a garage apartment that we would stay in when we were there. On this particular trip, Mary Lee and I were going to take about 3 days off to go to a convention, and we hesitated leaving Matt with the folks because he developed a diaper rash. Then I remembered that my mother had raised 2 boys, so I figured she could handle a diaper rash, and we went off and had a good time. Always time for fresh citrus when you're in Florida. there in the backyard with Matt and his playpen. He wasn't quite. He was crawling, but hadn't stood up yet. He actually stood up by himself on the way back, on our drive back to Lake Bluff from this trip. We turned around. He was in the back seat. Mary Lee and I were in the front. We turned around, all of a sudden saw him standing there. I thought, oh my goodness, things have changed. I had kept my mustache after the Army. I didn't grow a beard for probably another 10 years, but the mustache was something I kept after the service. Couldn't grow one when I was in the Army, but I decided to right after I got out. So by the time we got home after bumming around Europe for a month or so, I had a mustache. Grandma Sally had passed away earlier in the year. Grandma Ati was coming down for winters at that point, and she was usually joined by one of the aunts, and Helen was the one that stayed with her this year. They had a separate apartment a couple miles away from the house. They had barbecuing. Keep up my intellectual pursuits, of course. Now we're getting set to head home. Pinto station wagon. Mary Lee kiddingly puts Matt in the back. Of course, we didn't leave him there. He liked to drive. Matt always liked the steering wheel of any vehicle he was in. Was happy as there. Started at this point and continued on until he could get his own car. Okay, so we headed back to Lake Bluff, and a couple months later, it was early spring, May, and the ground had unfrozen, and it was time to put in a back garden off the back of the house. Here, Matt's got a fat lip because he was cruising around in this stroller and tipped forward and hit his face. Luckily, he wasn't hurt more than a fat lip for a while. And my folks came over to help out with the gardening, putting in some flowers along the east side of the house there. They were wonderful grandparents. They loved the kids, starting with Matt, of course, carrying on through Casey. Nothing better for them than to have a meal with the boys or just spend time with the boys. Started here and just continued on through the rest of their lives. We were all lucky because they spent half the year in Florida. We could get down there and visit them, come get out of the winter, and they would come back up north and spend the summer months in Lake Forest, Lake Bluff. It was a wonderful arrangement. Here's Matt in that infamous walker. He really knew how to run around in it, though, except for the one time when he bumped into a curb and wound up with a fat lip, as we saw earlier. But he's a very active child. So this is probably So I don't know, May of '73, I'm guessing. We have some shots later of Matt in his playpen with our bird, our parakeet Jackie, who was a curious bird and very social. Would come over and land on the edge of the playpen, and occasionally land on top of Matt's head, and he didn't mind. He didn't brush it away. So that's why Jackie kept doing it. Jackie had the run of the house as far as flying. I don't know how I did that or how we did that, but we did. Some mean purses, probably his mom, is moving those hanging ornaments just out of reach. Pretty soon it'll be time to move from the rolling walker to hands and knees. Of course, he was crawling all along, but we'll see a progression from crawling in the backyard here with Mary Lee to his first steps. Face full of grass, no problem. And there's Proud Daddy. Years later, Matt and I would actually build a large deck around the back of the house, running from the garage all the way around to the what had been Matt's bedroom. Huge project, but a lot of fun. We put a lot of work into it, and it turned out really well. It was one of the projects that Matt and I would do over the course of the years that withstood the test of time. We decided we wanted a vegetable garden in the back there, so we had begun digging it up a little earlier, and now it's time to get it raked up and get some veggies planted. We never had got a lot of luck with these gardens. We did them several years in a row, but it was always plagued by rabbits who would get in there and eat the young veggies before they had a chance to mature. So our output from those gardens was not equivalent to the amount of work that we put into them, but it was kind of fun to do. Let's see. Seeds say sprinkle in straight line. Scarecrow. Never had any problem with crows. Certainly did with mice and rabbits. Now we're starting to get something come up. A couple of weeks later. And here's some video of Matt in his crib with the parakeet Jackie landing on the edge and sort of saying hi, and they got along very well. Matt never swiped at the parakeet, and the parakeet loved to play with him. And now we're taking our first steps. You saw that out in the front yard. Matt was always curious. He wanted to go to the car. Oh, there we go, there we go. Good boy. Enough of this, back to crawling. I know how to do that. And I don't know who this is. One of the neighbor gals who came over and liked to play with Matt. And her brother. And I wish I remember their names. I don't. Matt would probably know. I think they lived there for a while after Matt got older. Doink. No problem. Back on my feet. Now let's see. Let me just head over to those cars I saw. Maybe there's a way I can get in and drive them away. Here's the big store delivery van. It's not so interesting as the family Pinto station wagon. Nice baby poop brown color with the fake wood on the sides. We would eventually trade this car in as it started rusting out for a new Pacer, AMC Pacer, as the boys got older. And now its first birthday, August 17th, 1974. The family's all going to come over and celebrate Matt's first birthday. Richard, Judy, Mary Jane, Mom, Mary Lee's mom. Mary Lee took over the opening of the presents. Matt was wondering what was going on, but all the family was gathered. Look, it's a jumping frog. Let's see how that works now. You squeeze this. Mom, Dad, Doris, and it's a rag monkey. This is before we got Jenny the collie. She would arrive shortly thereafter. Grandpa Orvo, Grandpa Omar, we had named Matt after their grandfathers. He would have been Orville Omar or Omar Orville. There's Martha Kelly, Mary Jane, Uncle Tommy, Uncle Mike. Ooh, a raincoat. Good, good going. A nice sweater. Proud daddy. Proud mama. Time to blow out the candles.